Welcome back, everybody, to the latest installment of Parleh Madness, powered by Duke's freshly crafted smoked meats. I'm your host, Luca Rosano, joined again by Jelani Goodridge-Reid, and we are back to break down the Sweet 16. Yes, we are down to our final 16 teams of this epic March Madness tournament. It was an incredible first two rounds. I must have watched like almost every single game. I was glued to my couch.
Same.
I didn't do
Yeah.
anything this weekend. I know it was St. Patty's, people were partying, but I was just watching college hoops, and it was great to see. I hit 50% of my first round and second round picks going into this Sweet 16 round. Jelani, how are you looking after the first two rounds?
We are looking pretty good. There are certain parts of the bracket that aren't, but overall, we're at 54% correct rate. So I'll take that. We're over 500. But yeah, as we move to Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, it's going to get very tough. All these good teams playing each other. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how we both do in terms of our picks.
Yeah, great matchups, 8 to get to. So let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it. The first one, we got Arkansas taking on Gonzaga. Gonzaga, a little bit of a scare in round two, but they were able to pull through. I mean, this has been a team through the first two games. They have had a bit of a scare, but all in all, they're here, the number one seed, looking to advance to the Elite Eight. They're favorites here by 8.5. Who are you going with?
I'm going with the Zags, and I know like they are pretty vulnerable in certain spots. I understand they're the number one seed and everything, but some of these teams are playing them tough. So here, I think it's also going to be another game like what we saw against Memphis. It's going to be tight. Arkansas, excuse me. They're a team that could play against Gonzaga like Memphis did. They're active. They're good in terms of pace. Their tempo rate is actually in the top 30, so they like to have tempo, like to have a similar pace to the Gonzaga Bulldogs. And also in terms of the spread, they're 20-13 against the spread, so they're actually a pretty nice bet in that area. But yeah, no, for me, I'm looking at the Zags and I'm going with them because of the duo of Chet Holmgren and Drew Timme. I do understand that Holmgren had a tough matchup against Duran in the Memphis game, but I do see him having a better performance. And of course, Drew Timme, he's somebody who he's a walking double double. I think
Yeah,
he's going to do that again. But an X factor for me will be Andrew Nemhard. I think
yeah.
for the Zags to win this game or at least cover here, he's going to have to show up in terms of the stat sheet. I think he has to definitely have a big impact on this game because Arkansas likes to, have a lot of defensive strategies that have a lot of focus on the perimeter. And if Nemhard's not there, if he doesn't show up in that aspect, then who will for the Zags? So expect for him to have a good game, despite the fact that Arkansas does commit turnovers, does have a nice perimeter defense. And just overall though, I just don't see how Arkansas's offense will outdo the offense of the Zags. I think if this is definitely a high score game, you have to lean with Gonzaga. They're one of the better scoring teams in the nation, and especially when it becomes shootouts, they're you got to favor them, right? If it's a shootout. So in this spot, I got to go with the Bulldogs here. I'm comfortable with that pick. I do believe that the duo of Chet and Timme will show up, and also Andrew Nemhard will have a big impact on this one.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. And if it does become a shootout, I think that favors Gonzaga because you look at Arkansas, they haven't been able to hit the three, which is going to matter in this game. They've been struggling. I mean, they do have a great defense. Ability to force
Yeah.
turnovers has been great. And they are number one in terms of attempts with plenty of rebounds. But this is a team that they haven't been good from 3-point range. They're 13 of 55 over the last three
Wow.
games, failing to hit 30% in 6 of their last 7 games. We know Gonzaga likes to score. We know Gonzaga's got guys like Chet and Timme who could fill up the stat sheet. And although they've had scares in the first couple of rounds, I think this is going to be a bit of a get it right game for Gonzaga. They will be able to attack Arkansas. And I just don't see Arkansas being able to keep up. I mean, they don't have the offensive scoring punch, in my opinion, to keep up with Gonzaga. And the only way Arkansas has a chance to win this game is if they can keep Gonzaga between 60 and 70 points. But I don't think that's going to happen here. I
Yeah.
think the Zags are truly going to flex their muscles. And Arkansas is 1-6 when teams hit 46% or better from the field against their defense. I can see Gonzaga having a great time shooting the basketball both from 2 and 3. So yeah, I think Gonzaga will get it done here. I know this spread could be a little bit timid for bettors, especially, pardon me, especially to see what Gonzaga has done in the first 2 rounds, having scares, but I think they will get it going here, and I think they will cover this number. So I will lay Gonzaga -8.5. I think they will get it done over Arkansas by double digits, and they will move on to yet another Elite Eight.
Yeah, Arkansas, very streaky team. Sometimes they look good, but oftentimes their offense doesn't really show up. And against a number one seed like Gonzaga, you're going to need the offense. But now let's go to the Michigan Wolverines and the Villanova Wildcats. Villanova 5-point favorite here. So do you go with Villanova in this spot to advance to yet another Elite Eight?
Give me my Michigan Wolverines, baby. Let's go with Michigan. I'm going with a bit of an upset pick here. I'm definitely going to take them +5. I'm still debating if I'm going to take them on the money line, but I really like how Michigan's playing. Juwan Howard, man, he's been coaching these guys extremely well. I love that bit he had at the end of last game, consoling the other team's player,
Right.
As he was very distraught after his team lost. Michigan's great right now. I really love the confidence that they're playing with, and they're making baskets. Its offense is playing with confidence. They're showing the ball movement. It made 54% of its shots against Colorado State, then 50% of its shots against Tennessee. And that was a Tennessee team that was highly touted. They were a team that many people thought could have had a chance at a number 1 or a number 2. So they were a very good value number 3. And Michigan made them look pretty ordinary. That was a game that Michigan dominated or looked well throughout. I won't use the word dominated. It was a good game. But Michigan definitely looked the part. They look like a team that could make a run, and I'm getting that vibe from this team. And this is a team that can make its shots, and they have been good at stopping the 3 as well. Their defense has been really good, and this is a Nova team that they like to shoot the 3. And you look at Michigan, they held Tennessee to just 2 of 18 from the outside. And Colorado State, they did make 12 threes, but it took them 35 attempts, so that's not a really good percentage to bank on. So I like Michigan. Their offense is playing well. Their defense is being vicious. They're well coached. And this team just believes. They got through the first 2 rounds. They're a double-digit seed. They have nothing to lose in this spot. I think Nova will be tested here. And you look at Nova in their last game, I didn't like the way they ended that game. Ohio State, they came knocking on the door. And Ohio State was making stops. And they had a chance to very well steal that game. So Nova didn't really impress me how they closed that one out. They were up by as many as 15, 16. And then that was a game with a couple minutes left. So didn't necessarily like how they ended that one. Michigan, on the other hand, they've looked good through their last 2 games, particularly coming out of that Tennessee win. So yeah, I like the Wolverines in the spot +5.
I'm going the other way. I'm going with Nova. I like what I'm seeing with them. This is their 5th straight Sweet 16. They've been in this spot similarly to Michigan as well, of course. But, Nova, winners of 12 of the last 13 games. They're a team that is really scary at this time of year. Jay Wright has these guys playing perfect basketball right now because you're looking at that game against Ohio State. They were up by, like you said, 15 plus points, and it looked like the game was over, right? And that was because they were hitting their shots. They had good looks. They were hitting, obviously, from the charity stripe, which, that's what they're accustomed to doing. They're the best team in the nation in terms of the free throw line shooting. And you've got guys, multiple parts. You obviously have Colin Gillespie, a guy that is obviously a guy to watch, an X factor type guy. He could hit from the outside. He makes plays. He, again, from the free throw line, he's very reliable in that area. But aside from him, you have plenty of reliable parts, to their offense. And Jay Wright, he likes to really use his starters a lot. This is one area where I don't like because the lack of depth could be scary. In this time of year, you do want some bench points. And, Villanova, among all the contenders, do have like the least amount of minutes from their bench. But, they go 7 deep. And those 7 could all get into the double digits in terms of scoring. And they provide 5+ rebounds. So they give you north of 5 rebounds or north of 5 assists. These are guys that know how to play in multiple ways. I don't know if, I'm looking at Michigan, and I don't know if, this run is going to continue because this is a team in Villanova that, it's a lot to handle. There's a lot to handle here. And also they hold opponents to under 65 points often. And in that scenario, they've won 6 straight. So is Michigan going to be able to put the ball in the bucket against a team like Villanova that features a pretty nice defense, and they have one of the better offenses, one of the more efficient offenses in the country. It's going to be a fun game. I do think that it will be close throughout. I think first half it might be a dogfight, and even throughout the second half. But eventually, I put my faith and my trust in guys like Colin Gillespie to hit big shots late, and also his co-contributors. I think the other guys on Villanova, can definitely provide a big impact in terms of the offensive end of the floor. So yeah, they roll 7 deep. I know it's not the best bench. They don't have the best bench in the nation, but I do trust that all their guys will show up in this spot and advance to yet another Elite Eight.
Should be a great matchup. Moving on now, we got Texas Tech taking on Duke. This is a pick'em game. Texas Tech actually entering as the 1-point favorite here. Are you surprised?
I'm not too surprised because Texas Tech is a very defensive team. They were first in terms of the Big 12 and first in terms of the whole nation in terms of the Ken Pom rating. So that's one of the major advanced metrics in NCAA basketball. So they have, that they have the wins against Tennessee, Baylor, and Kansas, excuse me. So those are some great offenses there. The only problem is here against Duke. Duke has plenty of guys to deal with, right? We obviously know about Banchero. He's a walking 20 points. He'll do what he has to do. He's only had 2 games this year where he's been under double figures. So expect him to obviously have a big impact in that area. And also Wendell Moore Jr., I like what he could do. He's a very nice player. He's smooth. He creates his own shot. He creates for other guys on the floor. So he's probably going to have a big impact in this one. But here, I understand, again, Texas Tech, arguably the best defense in the nation. However, you're going to play a team in Duke that has plenty of double-digit scorers like Trevor Keels, like Mark Williams, AJ Griffin. I expect for 2 of those 3 guys to be in the double digits in terms of scoring. If that happens, I really put my faith and my trust in Duke to pull this one out, because you're talking about Banchero and Wendell Moore Jr. doing their thing, and then you add 2 to 3 other guys to handle. I don't see where Texas Tech is going to be able to hang with these guys, especially coming off of a game where they only shot 26.7% from 3. They were 4 of 15. So you're going to need the 3 ball in this one for sure against Duke. And a guy I'm really looking at in terms of the Blue Devils will be Mark Williams. I believe that he has to be the X factor because he's really active on the boards. And with that being said, he's going to create more second chances for Duke in this one. And he has to be the anchor on defense that he usually is. But yeah, in this case, they're too versatile. We saw what happened with this 5-man attack and a few guys off the bench, but their 5-man attack was the difference against Michigan State. Even though that game was close, Michigan State just didn't have enough offensively, in terms of their firepower to hang with a team like Duke. So I could see the same thing happening here. I understand that the Red Raiders do have a good defense, but all in all, I just trust in the star power that Duke has.
Yeah, a little bit surprised Duke's the underdog here, but hey, anytime you can get a point with Duke, you got to take it, especially in this spot. I agree with you, Jelani. I'm going to go with Duke. I think they're so versatile, too many weapons to stop. I know Texas Tech does have a good defense, but I don't know how they're going to be able to stop so many of these Duke contributors that you just mentioned. You could stop maybe 1 or 2, but you're going to stop all of them. That's what makes this team so versatile. They're playing at an elite pace. They're playing really well. And Texas Tech, you mentioned their struggles from 3, which is a concern. They also just shot 35.6% from the floor. So this was a team that barely scraped by a Notre Dame team that, I'll be honest with you, I thought Notre Dame was going to pull off that upset. It was a very close game. Texas Tech only won by 6. It wasn't the most convincing effort. I thought Duke convinced me more with their win against Michigan State. So this is going to be a game that I think favors Duke. And I know the Raiders, they do play well defensively. They can force turnovers. They rebounded well. But I just think from an offensive standpoint, Duke has too many guys you got to worry about. And I think that's ultimately going to be the reason why they get on through. This should be a very good game. But I'm going to go with the Duke Blue Devils to keep this magical run of Coach K going. And I think they will find a way to beat Texas Tech to move on to the Elite Eight.
Okay, and now let's go to another number one seed in this bracket. We have Arizona playing Houston. This is a very fun one that we have, actually. Arizona favored by 2 points here. So what's your pick?
Man, this is the toughest one, I think. I was going back and forth because I really like Houston. This is a Final Four team. They look like a Final Four team, but then Arizona's Arizona. But I'm ultimately going to go with Arizona -2. I think they will scrape by like they have in the first two rounds, especially last game.
Yeah.
That was an amazing game to watch. It was the final game, going to overtime
Crazy,
against
man.
TCU. Really, really good game. The thing about Arizona, though, they have a really bad problem with turnovers, which is why I'm kind of scared about this game. They gave away 16 against TCU, 19 against Wright State, and they got 64 turnovers in their last 4 games. That's not the definition of a national champion. I mean, this is a team that looks a little bit shaky. And Houston, their defense is mad. They're going to attack you. They're going to come after you. And this could be another one of those scrappy games that comes down to the end. However, where I am going to give the advantage and significant advantage to Arizona, and ultimately what led me to pick them in this game, is they rebound the ball better than anybody else in the country. They're very long. They're very, versatile. And I think that's going to be something that gives Houston problems here. They're a tall bunch. They're going to create a lot of second chance opportunities. And I think this will be a defensive game. But the height of Arizona, I think that's going to be the difference here. I think the rebounding battle will make all the difference in this closely contested game. You know, when you rely on a second chance opportunity late, you're going to look at the Zona team that's proven to be one of the best rebounding teams in the country all season long. So, yeah, I will go with Arizona here. I hope they can limit their mistakes because Houston will make you pay. But overall, it's going to be a fun game, one of the better matchups in my opinion. And both these teams look like a team that could make a run and even win this whole thing. So, yeah, I will go with Arizona.
I'm going to go the other way with Houston. I like what I'm seeing from this team. Kelvin Sampson, he has these guys playing good basketball, and they're really feeding off of their run last year to the Final Four that we saw. So this is their 13th Sweet 16. They've been in this spot before. I think that this team in Houston, the Cougars, have a lot of guys that could hurt Arizona in multiple areas. You got Tajay Moore, Jamal Shed, Kyler Edwards. That big three right there, they accounted for 54 of Houston's 68 in their last one. So they're going to be expected to show up in this spot again. I just think that they're better than a 5 seed. They're not even a 5 seed in my opinion. This is a team that no one wants to see this time of year just because of their experience, because they've been in these games, and because they have a really efficient team on both sides. And this is actually without two of their best stars, in terms of scoring. They lost Marcus Sasser earlier on in the year and Shamar Mark. So, when you lose two of your major guys, but still looking like the way they've looked, they're a strong club and a strong team. They're clicking offensively. And I think they could deal with Arizona, in that area, because Arizona, we know who they are. You got Matherin, who's the star. He's coming off of 30-8. So obviously he's going to have an impact. But for me, I want to see what Arizona's bigs are going to do, right? Because when we watch the Houston and Illinois game, we saw Kofi Cockburn. He had a huge impact, which almost led Illinois to a victory. But, aside from Cockburn, there wasn't a lot of help. In this spot, I think if Arizona wants to get it done, their bigs are going to have to show up in this matchup against Houston, because Houston has the guards, has the wings that could hang with a team like Arizona. And Arizona struggled against TCU. TCU, they're very active. We know that. They're a team that's pretty underrated as a 9, but they struggled against a 9. I think they're going to struggle here against a team that's better than TCU, a team that is not really a 5 seed. They're better than a 5 seed. And also, if you want to point out, the refs did kind of have something to do with Arizona's win last night. I won't get to that too much, but for me, I just find that Houston's very resilient. They're a team that never gets tired. They're inspired by Kelvin Sampson's NBA background. You can see that within their offensive game planning and also their defensive action. So for me, I think Houston pulls off an upset here. I don't really think a lot of people are going Houston in this one, but I believe in what I've been seeing from them. Of course, Mathurin on the other side, he's going to have, the biggest say in how this game plays out. But for me, I just find that Houston has a lot of guys that can really, hurt Arizona offensively. So yeah, give me the Cougars.
Yeah, I would not be surprised. This is a game that could go either way. And like I said, I've been going back and forth, and the Cougars definitely do have some value as they are the underdog here against the number 1 seed, Arizona. Okay, before we get into our next game, again, Parleh Madness is brought to you powered by Duke's freshly crafted smoked meats. Duke's products are freshly crafted with real ingredients, as they have been the proud sponsor of our continued coverage of March Madness here on the Parleh. Let's get into our next matchup, and this is one that I hope we see some more Cinderella magic in this one, and that's St. Peter's, the 15 seed. They are a team that is playing with ultra confidence. They are a team that is not timid, and this is a team that will be taking on a very good Purdue team. It's not going to get any easier for St. Peter's. Purdue, the overwhelming favorites here, minus 12.5. Will the magic continue, or is this where it stops?
I'm very surprised by the number. I know Purdue's one of the best offenses in the country, but I got to go with St. Peter's in this spot. 12.5?
Yeah.
After what I've been seeing from St. Peter's, they beat the 2 Kentucky squads. Kentucky, itself, they're one of the better teams in the bracket. They got knocked out. And then you're looking at Murray State, a team that I thought could pull through as a 7. And no, that didn't happen. And it's because of the defense of St. Peter's. They're one of the better defenses that no one really saw coming, right? But they were the best defensive team from the MAC, from their own conference. So they've been doing this all year. They understand their spots. They understand who they are. They have an offense that at times, doesn't look the best, but they could beat you with the defense. And they're now winning, at a high rate. They've won 9 games in a row, which is actually the most in the nation at this point. They're in a good rhythm right now. So I got to go with them in this spot. And another thing that I'm looking at in this game will be rebounding. I think rebounding is going to be huge. St. Peter's top 50 in terms of rebounding, metrics. And Purdue, the way that Purdue has been able to win their first 2 games was winning the rebounding battle. So that's going to be interesting to see, who pulls out of that. On top, I think that whoever wins the rebounding battle will win this game outright. And everyone's asking, is this Purdue's year? Because they always let you down. Even though they've had good teams in the past, they always let you down. Obviously, you got guys like Zach Edey and Jaden Ivey, who's going to be, huge in this game and have a major impact. But for me, watching this game, I'm saying to myself, if Purdue turns the ball over, there's going to be problems, that happen for them because, they do tend to turn the ball over a lot, the Boilermakers. And that's when, the games become really close. And that's when Purdue becomes, very vulnerable and they get some scares. We've seen it on their schedule throughout the year. So in this case, I do think that, yes, Purdue, they have guys that could hurt anybody, offensively. But St. Peter's, they know how to defend from the perimeter. They know how to turn the ball over. They're nice in terms of rebounding and defensive rebounding, getting active at the boards. And they're just on a roll right now. Outright, I might lean towards Purdue money line, but this is just too much of a spread for me. I actually don't see any Sweet 16 game this upcoming week being a huge, a huge margin. I don't think there's going to be any blowout by any stretch. So yeah, give me St. Peter's.
Yeah, I'm going with St. Peter's too, Jelani. This team is 9-1 against the spread in their last 10 games. Wow. Put some respect on their name. What is this line right here? It just tells me that the odds makers haven't been watching St. Peter's play. This is a team that you don't want to play right now. Like, they beat Kentucky, a lot of people's pick, hell, my pick to win the entire thing. Then they beat Murray State. Those are 2 impressive wins. And what is more bizarre about this line to me is the fact that you look at St. Peter's, they thrive defensively. They're playing really good defense. This isn't no fluke that they're just pulling out these wins. They've been earning these victories. They held Kentucky to 45.9 effective field goal percentage and Murray State to only 42.3. And they may be lacking in size, but they protect the rim well. They're 19th in the nation in block percentage at 9.3% and 11th with opponent shooting just 44% inside of the arc. Yeah, this is a team that they're playing with confidence. They got that Cinderella vibe. Their head coach, great. He's got great motivator. He's saying all the right things. He's got his guys playing hard. Everybody understands, it seems, on this team that the job's not finished. And at first I thought, okay, was this a team maybe they were content with their Kentucky win and that was their tournament and they were ready to pack it in? But no, their performance against Murray State, a game in which they never trailed, if I'm not mistaken, it's a game that was a performance that told me that this team, they might be up to something truly special here. So yeah, I still don't know where I'm going to go with the money line. I mean, there's tremendous value with St. Peter's. They are overwhelming underdog here, but definitely against the spread. I mean, you got to take them. All arrows are pointing to the St. Peter's team. At the very least, if they're not going to win this game, they're going to keep it close. So give me St. Peter's in this spot against Purdue.
Yeah, I'm shocked by the number, honestly. But guys, subject to change. Okay, so we'll see if the line moves or not. Now let's go to Kansas. Kansas, number 1 seed, playing the number 4 seed Providence. Kansas is a 7.5 favorite in this spot. So are you going Jayhawks here?
Going back to your original point, I don't think we're going to see too many one-sided games here. So this is too big of a line for me in this game, which I think will be close. So I'm going Providence. Providence, this is a team that's looked really good. This is a team that has come a long way from last season. And it's incredible to see them in this spot. And this is a team that some people were talking about sleeper picks to get to a Final Four, and they're playing like it right now. I mean, they've been able to hang around, with some great teams. And this isn't, just a luck factor with them. They've amounted a record. This is the part that impresses me the most. They're 11-2 in games decided by 5 or less this season. So this tells me this team plays in a lot of close games, but they also can pull it out in a lot of close games. And they are a veteran bunch. This is a team that finds ways to win. They are not intimidated. It doesn't matter who they go up against. They are going up against the number 1 seed Jayhawks here. They are going to be a very prolific offensive attack. But Providence, this is a team that I think can, keep it close. And why? Well, shot quality ranks their defense 46th in the country and gives this team an adjusted record of 24-12. So that means that this team has benefited by limiting their opponents, and they make it hard on their opponents with the hard shot selections they give them. And Providence, they also have the offense in this game that I believe can go up against the Jayhawks. I mean, you look at their shooting. They got guys like Durham, Bynum, Reeves that can shoot it. And they got big man Nate Watson, who's been playing really well. So they got the talent here. They got the coaching, and they have the defense that I think will propel them to a closely contested matchup here. And I would not be surprised if we see this Providence team even pull off the upset. I think this team is playing with a ton of confidence right now, and I think they will find a way against the Jayhawks to at least keep it close. So I'm going to take those points. I like that I'm getting 7.5 here. I'll take that all day. Give me Providence plus 7.5.
Yeah, so the line, obviously, it's early. I thought that it would be a smaller line than this. That's why I was leaning towards Kansas, but I got to go Providence as well, especially if the line stays like it is. I just think that, Kansas, at times they get too comfortable. I think they're too comfortable in what they have in terms of talent because they obviously have multiple guys that could hurt you, and one of the better offenses in the nation. But they have struggled against solid defensive teams. Texas Tech, Texas, Baylor, TCU, all those teams. And Providence can pose a big threat in that area. Providence was lights out on both ends of the floor against Richmond. Albeit Richmond, I know that they're not Kansas, but they held Richmond to only 39.6 from the field. And from 3, they were 4.5% from 3. That's what they held Richmond to. Richmond was 1 for 22 from downtown. Wow. I do not expect for Kansas to go 1 for 22. I do expect them to hit more shots. However, the Providence will limit the good looks. I do expect that to happen. And I do expect for Providence to also win the rebounding battle. And if it becomes a defensive game, I do see where Kansas can be, in a tough spot because they were playing Creighton, and Creighton has a nice offense, but they also have an overlooked defense. Their defense isn't that bad, and that's why we saw it being, a very close game. It was a close game throughout, and by halftime it was only a 1-point game in favor of Kansas. And then when we were down the stretch in the second half, a lot of people thought that Creighton could pull it out. In this spot, Providence has guys on offense that could score, but I'm looking really in this one, I'm looking at the defense. I think the defense of Providence could make it really, really difficult for Bill Self's group, despite the fact that the Kansas Jayhawks have plenty of guys that could hurt you in multiple areas. I'm just looking at the fact that Providence, I think they're very overlooked in this game. I don't know if bettors are really taking them seriously. And, also because Kansas has been, 5-1 in their last 6 against the spread. But for me, I just think that this will be a defensive battle, because when you get, closer to the championship game and all these rounds as you move forward, they do become really defensive minded battles. And in this spot, coming off of a good game against Richmond, I think that Providence will carry their defense into this one and make it really tough for Kansas. We'll see what the money line says. I might lean towards Kansas money line, but in terms of the spread, I think it's too much.
I think this is a perfect example where you take the spread now. I agree. I think the money will come in on Providence. This was surprising to me too, to see them underdogs by 7.5. And I will not be surprised by tip off. This line is like Kansas 5.5. I think this line will shift a couple of points going the other way, because right now, Providence is getting a ton of value being this big of an underdog. So keep an eye on the line change. It will change a bit once these games officially go down on Thursday. Okay, next game. This is probably one of the best games of this. Well, all these games are great. Let's be real. All these games are going to be great. But this one, to me, for some reason, it just sticks out a little bit more. And I'm talking about UNC. What a thriller of a game they pulled off to beat Baylor, the defending champs, in overtime when it looked like they were going to blow a 25-point lead. They hung tough. They're taking on UCLA, a team that is fresh off making it to the Final Four a year ago. This is going to be a great one. Probably the one that I'm most looking forward to. Who do you like in this spot? Are you going with your Tar Heels to keep it going?
I am 2.5. I'm pretty comfortable in this spot, and this is a game. I was expecting to meet up with UCLA. I had this matchup actually in the bracket. I didn't think Baylor was going to win, to be honest with you, but this is a matchup between two blue bloods, two famous schools with some of the best that we've ever seen in college basketball history. You have UCLA one side, who has the most titles, and then North Carolina, who has the most Final Four appearances. So this is a great game, a lot of history, but this is also a spot where both teams play similar. You have both teams having good ball handlers, guys that could, survey the floor. And when you're talking about RJ Davis on one side, and then you have Tyler Campbell on the other, you have bigs that, could shoot. So a lot of stretch fours, a lot of guys, from the wings that could hit shots. And then bigs that get active. So this is going to be a close one for sure. So I understand the line. But one thing I'm really looking at, Jaime Jaquez, for UCLA, he did get hurt in their last one. We'll see if he plays. There is optimism in that area. But if he's not out there, that's a huge loss for UCLA. UCLA needs him. He's one of their major contributors on offense. And, for me, I just expect for North Carolina to pull this one out, because I expect a better game from Caleb Love. When he shows up offensively, they're a tough team to stop. They only had RJ Davis and Armando Bacot out there, for the last 10 minutes of regulation and then overtime, because Brady Manick got ejected. He'll be back. And then you're talking about Caleb Love. He couldn't hit his shots. In this spot, I do expect him to hit his shots, get better looks in this game, because they're going to need him. If Caleb Love doesn't have a good game shooting wise, that's when you would probably lean to UCLA, but I expect him to show up in this one. It's going to be very interesting to see how the free throw shooting will be, because I saw North Carolina kind of struggle with the free throws down the stretch, and that allowed Baylor really to get back in the game. So you're going to have to hit free throws against UCLA, who could hit them. And that's why UCLA has been 8-4 in their last 12 against the spread because of that area. But for me, I do believe that UNC will get hot offensively, and also they're active defensively, right? We saw what they did to Baylor. Baylor is one of the better offensive units in the country under Scott Drew, and they did not look good. They looked like they were a completely different team. They didn't even look like a number one seed, and that was because UNC was active on defense. They got after everybody, the good closeouts and things of that nature. Defensive rebounding helped. And I think the rebounding battle will be won by the Tar Heels. And that's what we saw against Baylor. So that's why I'd lean that way with North Carolina. But for me, the shooting will be intriguing. These are two teams that could shoot the basketball. Watch out for Jaquez again. If he plays, if he doesn't, we'll see. But Juzang, obviously, he has a lot to say in this one. But yeah, it's going to be a fun game. I just think if there's a lot of ball pressure, though, Luca, if there's a lot of ball pressure from UCLA, like we saw Baylor do, which allowed them to come back in the game, North Carolina might get, bothered a lot by it. We saw that, they almost let up because of the ball pressure. So you're going to have to hope, if you're a UCLA bettor, that Mike Cronin, just installs what, Baylor's game plan was in the second half with the 10 minutes left. But yeah, for me, I'm going with North Carolina. I think that the rebounding battle will be won. I think that the active defense will be there. And I do expect for Caleb Love to be the X factor. I think he's going to show up offensively.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. I think that game for UNC is only going to benefit them. I understand they're up by as many as 25 with 10 minutes left, and then Baylor started applying pressure. They started turning the ball over like crazy. But for them to hang on for dear life and still beat the defending champs in overtime, that says a lot. And that, to me, is going to add an incredible rep for this team for this matchup. They know that they're not going to take their foot off the gas because they know what happened last time. So that's actually going to prove to be some valuable experience for this UNC team, that right now they are playing like a team that could make a run to a Final Four and beyond. They're playing extremely well, and it's crazy to see that their defense has stepped it up a notch. I mean, this has been arguably their biggest weakness this season, but that's exactly what they thrived in to start this tournament. They're holding opponents to 42.8%, but that's dropped to 37.4%, which proves that they've been dominating the defensive side of their game during this March Madness run. So I think they should be able to keep their momentum going here. I think their defense will definitely prove to be very big in this one. And this is a UCLA team that they only rank 146th in effective field goal percentage. So I think that UNC can neutralize UCLA in the spot. And I just like the size of UNC and overall strength down low to be the difference maker in this one. So this is going to be a must-see game. I think this is going to go back and forth. But I think UNC is going to be able to limit UCLA's offense here. And UNC will be able to grind out a win. So I think this line is reflective of the type of game that we're in store for. But yeah, give me your Tar Heels to keep it going. I will gladly take these 2 points, and I would not be surprised by tip-off if this is just like a -1 pick 'em type of line.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is going to be a great matchup. UNC, UCLA, let's go. I'm ready for it. Give me a UNC.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. Might be the best one that we have in terms of the Sweet 16. But Luca, let's move to our final game on tap here. We have Miami and Iowa State. Iowa State actually pulled off a huge upset over Wisconsin, but they are 2.5-point underdogs in this spot against the Miami Hurricanes of Florida.
Yeah, I got to go with Miami here. I just get this feeling that they're going to come through, and this is a team that they were able to frustrate the Tigers, and that was a big win. Like, I did not expect them to get on through, and they knocked off arguably a team that many people saw in the Final Four. I mean, I know Charles Barkley had them, but this was a Miami team. They're able to frustrate the Tigers with their scrappy defense. They forced 13 turnovers, and then held Auburn to just 30.4% from the field. Like, that's what really stood out to me. And they got gamers on this team. I think their offense is going to look alive in the spot. You look at guys like McGusty, Jordan Miller carrying the offense. McGusty had 21 points in that game against Auburn. So this is a team that's extremely well coached. I believe their coach was also the guy who brought George Mason on that improbable run. So, he knows a thing or two about going deep in March and defying the odds. So, yeah, I like how this Miami team is playing. I was especially impressed with how they looked against Auburn, a team that I thought was going to blow them out, if I'm being transparent here. So the way that they got through that one, I think they will get through Iowa State. So, yeah, give me Miami to make it to the Elite Eight. This has been a team that has flied under the radar, and it's crazy to see both these teams in the spot, quite frankly. Two double-digit seeds, and one of them is going to get to the Elite Eight. I don't think anybody had this matchup on this side of the bracket, on any bracket. But yeah, I think Miami will continue to frustrate their opponent, and they will have enough offense to be able to pull this one out. So I'm going to go with Miami as the favorites here, -2.5. And I think this line will stay the same.
Yeah, like you said, two double-digit seeds. This was not what we thought would happen, but we're here, and I'm going with Miami. I like what I'm seeing from them. And I understand on the other side of the court, we have Iowa State, who's a pretty nice defense. We saw what they did to Wisconsin. Wisconsin has Johnny Davis, one of the best players in the country. Of course, Davis, he had a nice game, but around him, usually he has guys that help him out offensively, and Wisconsin just couldn't get guys to hit their shots, and that's why they lost the game. So watch for that, because Iowa State 22nd in terms of scoring defense on the year in the nation, so they could disrupt Miami. But when you're talking about Cam McGusty, you spoke about him a bit, leading this team in points. But when you have other guys that step up for you, like Isaiah Wong, who had 21 in their last matchup, or a guy like Charlie Moore or Jordan Miller, if somebody else could also put the ball in the hole, get north of 20 points or around that, 18 to 20 range, I do see this team being pretty tough to beat. And also, I think one thing that will be very interesting to see in this matchup will be the turnover battle, right? Because Auburn was supposed to win that game, given the talent that they have, given the coaching that they have. Everyone was leaning toward Auburn, but the problem was they lost the turnover battle. They managed to turn the ball over 13 times, to Miami's 4. So if Miami manages to have something similar to the last game where they had 10 steals, allowing for more pressure and more, possessions offensively, if they win the turnover battle, I don't see where Iowa State has enough offense to hang with Miami, because I think Miami, like I said, they have multiple guards that could hurt you. They have one of the better guard play, left in terms of the remaining 16 teams. So, Iowa State's going to have to hope that they, keep the ball, don't turn the ball over against a team like this. I also don't see Iowa State out shooting a team like Miami, because we saw, again, against Wisconsin, it was a very defensive battle, a defensive game. But Iowa State, they also struggled. It wasn't just Wisconsin who struggled, but Iowa State struggled with their 3 ball and also, their 2-point convert rate. So I think that in this spot, when you're talking about Miami, I think that they're one of the hotter teams right now in the nation that no one's really talking about. And they outshot Auburn in free throw line percentage, 3-point shooting percentage, and field goal percentage. That's Auburn. That's one of the better offenses in the country. So I think that's going to happen again in this spot against Iowa State, who doesn't have as much as Auburn has offensively. So give me Miami in this one.
Yeah, it's the way Miami won that game that really sold me for them in this game. Like, they won that game by 18. They just totally neutralized a very good Auburn Tigers team, a team that many people had going to the Final Four. So, I think Miami is up to something special, and we both agree that they will get on through into the Elite Eight. But that is going to wrap up our coverage of these 8 games for the Sweet 16. Jelani and I gave you our best picks against the spread. We will see who will have the advantage record-wise going into the Elite Eight, as we will continue to bring you our coverage of Parleh Madness, powered by Duke's freshly crafted smoked meats. Once again, thank you so much for watching and listening, and we will catch you all again in the next one.